Hi everybody, taking my walk today, and I'm doing an evening walk. I'm going to do it quickly because I'm running out of sunlight. Sometimes we get busy and we reprioritize, or we decide, well, I'm going to do this thing, or maybe we just get sidetracked. However, my commitment is to do the 2+ miles a day, and I'm gonna do it and get it done. So here we are on the trail. One of the things about walking on a trail, which I really enjoy, is of course being in nature, and the terrain is going to change. When I first started out, there was like a hill and grass to get to the trail, and then it was a lot of rocks. And for my ankle injury, I have to be very mindful of where I'm stepping when there's lots of rocks like that. I made it through, and then now it's like gravel and dirt. So what I'm getting at is the terrain in life, it changes. And sometimes there's really big rocks that we need to deal with. And sometimes there's little pebbles and, sand and dirt that we have to deal with. And so the intensity, I'm just going to kind of span so you can see the stream. So, I remember there was an exercise for teachers a long time ago, and the idea was, rocks in a jar. I think that was the exercise of it. And so you basically have this big empty jar, and you have all these different sizes of rocks that are on the table in different bowls. So you've got like really big rocks, you've got medium-sized rocks, little pebbles, sand, dirt, and there's all these different pieces, and the teacher says you have to put all of them in this jar. And so the students are trying to figure out, well, what do we put in first? And they had to try it a few times to get it. But the whole point is, if we don't put the big rocks in first, the little things, the sand, the dirt, the pebbles, they're going to take over, and then there's not going to be enough room for the big rocks. And this is really like the theme of what was happening within my family. And I know everybody means well, and everybody has a different way of generating support and love. And at the same time, thank you, Holy Spirit, yes. And at the same time, in our differences, sometimes we have to really communicate to other people, like, what are the big rocks? Like, what are the priorities? And it looks different than how the other person thinks you should be prioritizing your, big rocks. They may think that you should be focused on something else. And the point is that we each have to take responsibility and make a decision and say, this is the path that I'm choosing right now, for these reasons, for this purpose, and that's really the way that I want to go. And if you'd like to join me, then that's where I'm headed. And if you don't, well, you can take a different trail, you can take a different path, and that's okay. But sometimes when you're dealing with people that are not just different from you, but grew up in a different time, you have generational differences, there's a huge age gap, the world has changed so greatly, and sometimes older people are going to be more set in their ways in terms of what they perceive and how they think that you should do things. And the point is, everybody deserves a right to express themselves. Everybody deserves a right to participate and be a part of something and to show up. The difference is, though, if somebody keeps showing up with things, the little tiny rocks, the little tiny pebbles, and meanwhile you're trying to focus on the big rocks, it can really make the whole purpose get like torqued, twisted. Now, I know that in life, again, there are choices, and God is going to line up things in His timing. And that means that we have to be paying attention. We need to be mindful of what's ahead, what's not ahead. And right now, this is a perfect example. This particular trail, it has some branches, and I'm not going to be able to get through this way. But the point is that this could be perceived, it's a roadblock, it's an obstacle. Now I can climb over it and keep going, or I can turn around and keep walking in a different direction, which is what I'm going to do right now. But the point is that sometimes the obstacles that someone else is putting on your path, they may not see that they're obstacles to you. Like, I see it as an obstacle, but the other person doesn't see it as an obstacle. They think that they're helping or, creating generosity or whatever. But the point is, if my big rocks are, I want to complete this van build and I want to sell the things that I have and complete those 2 tasks, and there's a bunch of paperwork that I want to be focused on, that's content for what I want to do with social media, then those are my 3 big rocks, and that's what I want to focus on. And if somebody else is giving me a bag of sand, that bag of sand, it's nice sand, but in the grand scheme of things, it's pulling me away from my big rocks. Now, the other part of this message, of course, is going to take a biblical slant. And that is, if you're out there in the world and you do not have a safety net, you don't have a ripcord because you're not tied into the Lord, the God of Israel, through Jesus Christ, His Son, Yeshua, the Messiah, if that's not your core holding point for everything in your life, then you're already like dangling and just, you're kind of on your own. You don't have the support that you could be having if you were in alignment and abiding in the fruit of the Spirit, in the Holy Spirit. So when the Holy Spirit comes and you hear the Holy Spirit and the small voice says, go, you don't sit in the comfort of your sofa and say, I don't really feel like it. I mean, you can, but there's going to be consequences to that. So it's better that when you hear the small voice that says, go, and you know that the Lord is leading you in a certain direction, then you need to go and you need to complete the tasks that are in front of you so that you can achieve those big rocks, get those big rocks, so that you can complete what God has in store for you, so you can complete a chapter in one place and move on to the chapter in another place. Now, some people who talk or hear about, I'm going to actually end it here and start another video after this, given the time. Thank you all for being present with me on this portion, and I'll catch you in a little bit.